Hi everyone, my name is Jared Pfeiffer and I'm a product specialist for data science and business analytics. And today I'm going to talk to you about Watson Analytics and how you can use it as an entry point and as part of an analytics portfolio to help drive success within your talent management and HR division. So the agenda for today is I'm just going to do a quick overview of Watson Analytics, and then I'll do a live demo, and then we'll leave some time for some questions at the end. So the first thing I want to do is show you where Watson Analytics fits within the larger set of business analytics offerings. And we'll do that by looking at the analytics lifecycle. So we start with descriptive analytics, and this is all about understanding what happened or what is happening in your business. So that's your BI reporting, your basic dashboards and visualizations, all the things that you do using a solution like Cognos Analytics. Then we move into diagnostic analytics, and this is all about understanding why something is happening. So pattern detection, smart data discovery, everything you'll do in Watson Analytics. And so now that you know what happened and why it happened, the next logical step is understanding more about what will happen next, and use our predictive analytics solutions like SPSS and data science experience to further tune your models. And then you move into more prescriptive analytics, because now that you know what is going to happen next, you'd really like to know what you should do about it, or what's the best or the most optimal decision. And this is where you'd leverage cognitive decision optimization and machine learning tools like CPlex. Then finally, since you know what happened and why it happened, you were able to predict what will happen next and then optimize for that decision. You now need to better understand what effect that decision will have on your financial plan. You'll want to do some what-if analysis and scenario modeling to see the impact that decision will have on your budget and your forecasts. And for that, you might use planning analytics, formerly known as TM1. And so now we're coming full circle. You can then implement and operationalize whatever changes you decide to make into the company, then augment your dashboard to capture the effects of those changes over time, which will help you understand what is happening. And then the cycle continues over and over as you move forward in your business. And so that's the analytics life cycle. And we can talk about each of these solutions over time. But today, we're going to focus on the diagnostic part of the cycle. And that's all about removing the bias in your analysis to find the why behind a particular outcome. And the solution that we use to do that is Watson Analytics. And so what is Watson Analytics? Well, it's our cloud-based smarter data discovery solution. It's built for the line of business and designed for ease of use. In other words, it's built for those people that want to leverage the power of predictive analytics and the cognitive capabilities of augmented intelligence in a way that's accessible and easy to understand. And so when I talk about smart data discovery, there's some things that it does that make it what it is. And those things are that it automates a lot of the more difficult tasks typically reserved for the data scientists. It allows users to leverage natural language to query and interrogate their data. And lastly, it provides a guided experience for the user by offering suggestions and pre-built visualizations, basically making the exploration and discovery process a lot easier. And of course, the solution does all of this in a way that removes the bias. And so that idea of taking an unbiased approach to analytics is really the last thing I want to touch on before we jump into the live demo, as it's probably the most important aspect of Watson Analytics, and it's certainly the biggest differentiator from any product in the marketplace. So what exactly does this unbiased approach to analytics mean? Well, when a company is trying to solve a business problem, they typically begin with two things, right? They start with the question and then bring a set of assumptions as to what they think the answer to that question is going to be. And using traditional methods, the analyst would go and test these hypotheses over and over until they found one that validated or proved one of them right. And while that conclusion may be part of the answer, it may not necessarily be the best answer or the most complete answer. The best answer is probably a combination of several different factors, some of them known, some of them unknown. Or maybe it's some combination of factors that the analyst didn't even consider a possibility due to their bias. And that's where Watson Analytics comes into play, because it removes that bias and helps reveal those unforeseen patterns and relationships. And it does that by automating the data science and predictive analytics techniques, directing users to the answers that matter most. And so we're going to cover an HR attrition use case today. And this is all about a company that was seeing a huge amount of attrition in their company. And based on some dashboards that they looked at, they all decided that it had something to do with the R&D department. And they spun their wheels trying to figure out how to solve this problem. Did it have something to do with, people's education? Did it have something to do with, their job role or on their job level? And, they just started guessing was really what it was. And every time they did that, they were bringing their own bias. They were sitting there, they're selecting what it is they wanted to look at, and, they're just testing each hypothesis until they found one that supported their bias. But what we did was we took that same information and we patterned it using Watson Analytics. And what did we find? Well, we found that department, while highly correlated, had absolutely nothing to do with attrition. It didn't show up in the pattern at all. So how could that be? Well, basically they had taken their R&D lab and they had moved locations, which spiked distance from home for a large number of people. And not only that, but this was a tech company that moved into a trendy tech neighborhood very close to one of their competitors. Of course, we're offering higher pay packages. And there are some other things in the data as well, but the point is that it had nothing to do with the R&D department, but actually had to do with the set of attributes that people in that department just happened to have at a higher rate versus that of other departments. And so once they knew what those attributes were, they ran it against their entire list of employees and were able to take action on them and decrease that rate of attrition almost immediately. And so with that, I'm going to jump into the demo where we'll be looking at a very similar scenario. So let's get started. So in this example, I'm going to play the role of an HR analyst, and I'm trying to understand what the key drivers are for employee attrition in my organization. I want to ensure that I can attract and retain my top talent and then take action if it looks like I'm going to lose good people. So I've been given a data set that's all about my past and my current employees. So here I have some access to some demographic information like age, gender, marital status, along with their compensation and performance-related details. But the field that I'm most interested in here is whether or not they're a current employee or whether or not they've left for greener pastures. And I want to use this data to understand what really drives attrition in my workforce and then use that knowledge to prevent my top performers from leaving. So here's the main interface. And you see here up at the top, data, discover, and display. Now data is where you upload your data and where you can do some data prep, some data refinement, where you can join together with other data sets in order to enhance your analysis. Discover is where you do your exploration. You ask questions in natural language, drag and drop, and create visualizations. And then display is where you bring all of your discoveries together to create dashboards that you can then share with your colleagues. So to upload data, you just click this plus button here, and you can bring in your data from a few different sources. So either one of these pre-built ones, you can create a data connection to a database, or you can just upload, an Excel file or a CSV file. And once it's uploaded, it'll show up on this home screen here as one of these little tiles. And it'll give your data a quality score. Now that quality score isn't telling you how good or bad your data is, but rather how suitable it is for some of the more advanced analytics capabilities. Pretty much any score over 60 is suitable. And if it's below 60, you can still create visualizations. It just won't be able to leverage as much of the predictive pattern analysis elements. From here, you can just open the data set. You can make changes to it. In this refine section here, you can take out some rows and columns. Each column is going to be scored differently, so you can see which rows maybe have some data quality issues that maybe you need to address. So it gives you the ability to do some data cleansing and some data prep, which is nice. But to get started in the data discovery portion, all you need to do is click on the tile. And once you do that, Watson Analytics immediately presents you with these intuitive starting points based on what it sees in the data. And this is great for that really novice user or the user that isn't really quite sure where to start. They've got the data, they know they need to analyze it, but they're not sure really where to get started. So not only does it give you these starting points, but it provides a suggested visualization that best represents that data as well. So let's just click on the first one here and see what it gives us. And so when we do that, it gives us this information and recognizes that the data is geographical, and thus the best way to display that information is with the map. So I can always go back to the main screen and look at each one of these different suggestions one by one. And when I do that, you'll also notice off to the right here this discovery ribbon. And what these are additional suggestions based on the discovery that you're currently looking at. So it's essentially recognizing what you're doing and telling you, hey, if you're interested in looking at distance from home, you might also be interested in distance from home by attrition. And so as I look at a new visualization here, this suggestion discovery ribbons over here continues to evolve. And this is really valuable in that it's helping you through your analysis. It's guiding you. It's giving you suggestions to help you through your data discovery process. And so while I could do my analysis by leveraging any of these different suggestions, if I already know where I want to start, I can also just ask my own question using natural language instead. So here I ask a simple question about looking at the spread of my employees across departments. Watson Analytics interprets what I've written and then not only presents me with answers, but I see the insights have been ranked in order of relevance as well. So I start by selecting the most relevant answer, and I see which departments have the highest and lowest number of employees. From here, I decide that I'm interested in seeing how these departments break down by attrition. So I drag and drop attrition indicator on top of this color by section here, and now I'm seeing attrition across department. So I'm seeing which departments are experiencing the highest level of attrition, which departments. But now I'd like to continue by exploring, well, which job roles have the highest level of attrition as well. So you've seen me pull from this data tray down at the bottom. We've used this discovery ribbons off to the side. But now I want to show a different way to do some exploration by just simply replacing department with job roles. And this is giving me a good overview of attrition across all the different job roles in our organization. And I can make some tweaks to the visualization and formatting as well by selecting this button here. And I'll just go ahead, maybe I want to swap the accesses here. So it's presented as a bar chart versus a column chart. And maybe I want to stack it so it's easier to consume. And here, while I'm clearly able to see where the attrition is happening, I want to understand what is actually driving the attrition, or why our employees are leaving us. And so I'll type my next question as if I'm just talking to an expert. I want to understand attrition. And when I ask that question, I instantly get these resulting insights, and I choose the spiral visualization here to continue my analysis. And this spiral chart shows all the factors that are driving attrition based on my data. And the closer these dots are to the center of the bullseye here, the center of the spiral, the greater the predictive strength. And so here I can see this dot shows the top 3 drivers of attrition. And it highlights them over here to the right. I can see that overtime, distance from home, years at company and state are the biggest drivers. And using that drivers list, I can even select them individually and drill a little bit deeper. And I can even understand what statistical and predictive algorithms were used in order to derive that information. So really handy for the data scientist that wants to understand which statistical method was used in order to get this information. And so now that I know that overtime is a major driver, I want to look at which job roles end up working the most overtime. So again, I'm going to leverage my natural language dialog box here and ask and type the question, show me breakdown of overtime across job roles. I'm going to select the highly recommended tree map, and while this shows me the spread of overtime across job role, I also want to understand how that breaks down by department. So I want to drag department from my data tray and organize it that way. And to make it easier to consume and narrow my focus a little bit, I'm going to go ahead and summarize this by creating the top 5. I only want to show the top 5 departments. And I'm also going to change the way that we're looking at this. I'm going to summarize it as account versus account distinct. And now I can see that R&D is clearly the department that's experiencing the most attrition. So let's take a quick recap here, break, and recap what we've done. I've taken my data, I've loaded it into Watson Analytics, then I did some data discovery to see which job roles and departments had the highest level of attrition. And then with simple natural language, I was able to find out which set of attributes drive that attrition. And so now that I'm armed with this knowledge about what is driving attrition, and my intent is to prevent my top performers from leaving, I'm going to ask my next question in order to look at all of my employees across their total working years, monthly income, and years at our company. All of those things that we found out were drivers in order to get a sense of who my top performers are. So I can just simply ask that question. Show me employees across total working years, monthly income, and years at the company. Given that there are 3 numeric columns in my question, Watson Analytics presents the most relevant insights as a bubble chart. And this bubble chart shows me all my employees by their monthly incomes, total experience, and years in our company. And so now I'm going to color code it to see how it breaks down by department. And so at this point, I'm going to save my discovery set here, all of these different discoveries that I've uncovered through this exploration process. I'm going to go ahead and save these. Now, I could also share these with a colleague if I wanted to as well. I could send them an email, I could download this as to a PDF, but for now I'm just going to go ahead and save this into my folder. I can call it, this is my discoveries. This is my discovery. Let's go ahead and save that. And at this point, I want to put together a dashboard, kind of a collection of all these different discoveries that I've gotten. And I can do that in display. And so to get started, I just select New Display, can call it a dashboard. I can create any of these pre-built templates to sort of help guide that process. But so for the interest of time, though, I've already started this dashboard here. But you can see how you can customize this however you want. I mean, you can change the colors. Right now I'm in presentation mode. I'm going to change it to edit mode. I'm going to go to these discoveries that we had earlier, and I can just start dragging and dropping them into these templates here, and they'll just start filling out. You can also change some of the formatting on these, so you can tweak you can add different titles. Again, you can change some of the style in which the visualizations are presented. You can change some of the colors as well, different color palettes and things like that. But the last thing I want to do with this dashboard is drag in that bubble chart into a new tab here. And so as I mentioned, this bubble chart here is showing all of my employees, but I want to zero in on the most valuable employees who are also at the highest risk of leaving us. So based on what I learned earlier about what's driving attrition, I'm going to go ahead and add some filters. And I'm going to add those drivers as filters. So I think it was overtime, distance from home, and years at the company. And then I can use those filters to zero in on which employees are the ones that I need to target. And so I've done that here. I've added this little red box sort of to show which quadrant. If an employee is in this quadrant, then this is one that I definitely need to focus on. maybe need to spend some time to make sure that they stay at the company. So at this point, got all this done. I figured out which employees are the most at risk, and I want to share these insights. So as I was showing before, you can do that here. Send an email, you can download it, tweet it. I can send a link to another user of Watson Analytics so they can interact with and explore the same data set that I've been working with. And so to quickly recap, thanks to Watson Analytics guided discovery, I was not only able to understand the factors that drove attrition in our organization, but also derived a tangible list of those high performers that we must take immediate action to retain. So thank you for taking the time to watch and learn about Watson Analytics. And as you can see, it's intuitive, it's easy to use, and most importantly, it will help you discover those unforeseen patterns by removing the bias and guide you to make smarter, more data-driven decisions. And so I want to leave it open for some questions. And if you're not with us live today, you've got my contact information down at the bottom of the screen, so please feel free to reach out with any questions you might have. And so with that, let's leave it open for questions. Thank you.